Parker Schnabel, the relentless gold miner who became a household name through Discovery Channel's Gold Rush, is no stranger to the pressures of hard work, harsh environments, and high-stakes challenges. Yet, despite his formidable career success and growing fan base, one arena in which Parker admits he's still searching for clarity is dating. While most see a young, driven millionaire living his dream, the reality behind Parker's romantic life is anything but simple. And in a recent interview, he finally pulled back the curtain to explain why love doesn't come easy, even for someone knee-deep in gold. For Parker, life hasn't followed the usual trajectory of a 30-something man. While many of his peers pursued college, partied on weekends, or climbed the traditional corporate ladder, Parker's youth was spent in the wilds of Alaska, drenched in sweat, covered in dirt, and trying to meet gold quotas that would make or break an entire season. From the age of 16, he was operating heavy machinery, making financial decisions worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and overseeing teams of men twice his age. That kind of pressure shapes a person, sometimes in ways that make traditional dating dynamics complicated, even confusing. It's hard to explain that without it sounding like some dystopian, insane world, Parker said. I'm in the woods and you're living in bunker washing rocks. The sentence may seem humorous at first, but behind the words lies a deeper reality of disconnection and struggle. For Parker, introducing a potential partner to his lifestyle isn't a casual coffee date. It's an emotionally exhausting attempt to bridge two vastly different worlds. Imagine trying to connect with someone who has no context for what it's like to run a multi-million-dollar mining operation in the remote wilderness of the Yukon. Most people can't fathom spending months at a time in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by mud, engines, and noise. They don't understand the emotional toll of running behind schedule, losing a crew member, or finding out the ground you gambled on is a dud. And when Parker tries to explain it, he feels like he's describing a different planet. This disconnect makes it hard to establish the kind of intimate, honest foundation that healthy relationships require. How do you tell someone what your day was like when it involved pulling a broken sluice box out of a freezing river at 4 a.m. or dealing with a rock truck that flipped over just before reaching bedrock? How do you talk about goals and dreams when yours revolve around ounces of gold and thousands of yards of overburden? But it's not just the logistics of his career that make dating difficult, it's also the mental wiring that comes from years of relentless focus. Parker has built his success on precision, determination, and an almost obsessive work ethic. He doesn't take days off, he doesn't do half measures, and when you're wired that tightly for that long, letting someone into your life requires more than just affection. It demands a complete rewiring of habits, expectations, and emotional availability. Over the years, viewers of Gold Rush have watched Parker's love life unfold, most notably his relationship with Australian veterinary nurse Ashley Yule. She joined him during the mining season and quickly became a fan favorite for her charm, energy, and willingness to adapt. But as Parker later admitted, the relationship ultimately failed because he struggled to prioritize it. He was emotionally distant, too focused on work, and unable to balance the demands of his career with the needs of a partner. I didn't make the relationship a priority, he confessed in a rare moment of vulnerability. It was a failure on my part. This admission resonated with fans because it peeled away the tough, no-nonsense persona Parker wears on the job site. It revealed a young man wrestling with the human need for connection, weighed down by the responsibilities of a life that offers little room for anything else. And despite the breakup, it taught him something crucial. Love isn't just about finding someone who fits into your life. It's about making space in your life for someone else. But making space is easier said than done. For Parker, the reality of dating means asking someone to accept not just who he is, but everything that comes with him. The long absences, the unpredictable hours, the intense pressure, and the near impossibility of maintaining normal routines. It's one thing to date a man who works hard. It's another to date a man whose job requires him to vanish into the wilderness for months at a time. There's also the question of motives. As Parker's fame has grown, so too has his wariness about who he lets into his circle. You never know what someone wants from you, he's hinted in interviews. When you're wealthy and in the public eye, trust becomes a luxury. Is she interested in you or the Parker Schnabel brand? Does she see you as a person or a stepping stone? These questions make vulnerability even harder, and for someone already guarded by nature, it adds another layer of complication. That said, Parker isn't cynical. If anything, he's hopeful, just realistic. He still believes in love, in connection, in finding someone who understands. But he also knows it won't be easy. That person would have to be incredibly independent, resilient, and capable of seeing beyond the glitter of TV fame. They'd need to be comfortable with solitude, flexible with plans, and emotionally strong enough to handle both the highs and lows that come with dating a man like Parker. And despite the odds, Parker hasn't ruled it out. In fact, he's more open now than he's ever been, more aware of what he needs to work on, more willing to acknowledge his shortcomings, and more honest about the emotional toll of the life he's chosen. That kind of introspection doesn't guarantee love, but it lays the foundation for something real if and when it comes. Interestingly, Parker's struggle to date might just be the most relatable thing about him. We live in a world where many people feel misunderstood, where careers consume so much of our time that relationships become a second thought, and where opening up about our fears and insecurities still feels taboo. In sharing his truth, Parker gives voice to the quiet frustrations so many people carry, especially those who have built their lives around a mission, a goal, or a passion that others don't always understand. Fans of Gold Rush admire Parker not just for his success, but for his relentless drive and authenticity. He doesn't sugarcoat his failures. He doesn't pretend to be someone he's not. And in opening up about his struggles with dating, he shows a side of himself that's often hidden behind the machinery and gold pans, a side that craves connection, yearns for understanding, and struggles with the same insecurities we all face. There's something deeply human about watching a man who can move mountains with bulldozers admit he doesn't have all the answers when it comes to love. It's a reminder that no matter how successful or tough someone seems, we're all just trying to figure it out in our own way. And sometimes the biggest challenges aren't found in the frozen ground of the Yukon. They're found in the quiet moments when you're trying to explain your world to someone who's never lived in it. For now, Parker continues to mine the earth with the same intensity he always has. The gold still calls to him, the machines still roar, and the quest for the perfect ground never ends. But somewhere between the rock piles and the rushing water, there's also a quieter search taking place, a search for connection, understanding, and maybe one day love. Until then, Parker remains true to himself, navigating the wild terrain of relationships with the same grit he brings to every mining season. It's not easy, it's not glamorous, and it's certainly not simple. But in that struggle lies a story far more valuable than gold, a story of a man learning to balance ambition with vulnerability and success with the need for something more. And perhaps that's the real treasure Parker Schnabel is after. What makes Parker's journey compelling is the emotional tension that exists beneath the surface. He's a man who has spent most of his adult life in pursuit of something that very few people can truly relate to, a literal treasure buried beneath the earth. For years, Parker has been conditioned to keep pushing forward no matter what. When the weather is brutal, when the equipment breaks, when the crew is exhausted, Parker digs deeper. That mental toughness, while essential in the field, becomes a double-edged sword when applied to matters of the heart. Because emotional intimacy, unlike gold mining, doesn't yield results through brute force. You can't power through it with diesel engines and schedules. You can't blueprint your way into a person's heart. And you definitely can't control how someone sees your world, no matter how hard you try to explain it. That, more than anything, is what Parker seems to be learning, that love is not something you conquer. It's something you invite, something you nurture, something you make room for, not just in your schedule, but in your soul. The trouble is, when you've built your identity around surviving in an unforgiving world, letting your guard down becomes an unnatural act. Vulnerability feels dangerous, risky, like standing too close to a pit with no safety gear. But Parker knows he can't stay emotionally armored forever. He's already paid the price for that once, with the loss of a relationship that might have been something lasting. That experience, painful as it was, left him with a scar, but also a deeper understanding of what love demands. Not perfection, not success, but presence. Parker's world is built around extraction, removing something of value from deep within the earth. Ironically, the same principle applies to his emotional journey. He's having to dig deep within himself to extract the traits that relationships require: patience, softness, empathy, time. And unlike mining, where he can calculate return on investment down to the gram, the emotional process offers no such clarity. There's no guarantee of success, no payout at the end of the season, only the quiet, uncertain possibility that someone might see through the dust and the steel and the drive and find the man underneath. There's also a loneliness to Parker's life that isn't always visible on screen. Viewers see the camaraderie with his crew, the adrenaline of the chase, the satisfaction of a good yield, but they don't see the quiet moments after the camera stops rolling, the nights in trailers far from civilization, the long silences between phone calls, the birthdays missed, the milestones postponed. It's a sacrifice he's accepted in pursuit of his goals. But now, as he matures, he's beginning to wonder whether those sacrifices will always be worth it. What would it mean for Parker to slow down, not professionally, but personally? To say yes to dinner even when there's work to be done. To take a weekend trip with someone special, even if it means losing a day of progress. To choose connection over productivity, not every time, but enough to matter. These are the questions that quietly haunt people like Parker, driven individuals whose passion for their work leaves little oxygen for anything else. In many ways, Parker's journey mirrors a broader, more universal struggle. It's the tension so many people feel when chasing dreams that demand total focus. Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, and visionaries of all kinds wrestle with the same issue. How do you give your all to something you love without losing your capacity to love someone else? The truth is, it's hard, it's messy, and it doesn't always work out. But that doesn't mean the journey isn't worth it. What makes Parker's story so poignant is that he's not pretending to have it all figured out. He's not hiding. Behind bravado or pretending his success comes without personal cost. Instead, he's choosing to be transparent, even when it makes him vulnerable. That kind of honesty is rare, especially in a world that often equates strength with silence. But Parker knows better now. He knows that true strength comes from being willing to say, "This is hard for me. I don't have all the answers, but I'm still trying." In the quiet spaces between mining seasons when the machines are off and the wilderness settles into stillness, Parker has time to reflect. He thinks about what it means to be fulfilled, not just professionally, but personally. He considers what it would be like to share his world with someone who truly gets it, not just the excitement, but the fatigue, not just the glory, but the grind. And though he's not there yet, his heart remains open to the idea. There's something hopeful in that, something deeply human, because at the end of the day, Parker isn't just a miner. He's a man looking for connection, for understanding. For someone who can meet him halfway across the canyon of his life and say, "I see you, I get it, and I'm willing to walk with you no matter how rough the terrain." Love, after all, isn't about perfection. It's about finding someone who sees your flaws and stays anyway, someone who understands that your silence isn't distance, it's just exhaustion. Someone who doesn't need you to be anything more than what you already are, because who you are is enough. So as Parker continues his journey, on the claim, in his heart, and through the quiet spaces in between, he carries with him not just the weight of machinery and expectations, but the quiet, persistent hope that love is still possible. That despite all the obstacles, there's someone out there whose soul resonates with the rhythm of the land, the weight of responsibility, and the need for something real. And maybe, just maybe, that person will walk into his life when he least expects it, not with fanfare, not with drama, but with the kind of quiet strength that matches his own. Until then, he will keep doing what he's always done, showing up, digging deep, and pushing forward. But now, He's doing it with his eyes a little more open, his heart a little softer, and his spirit a little more ready. Because somewhere out there, beyond the gold and the glory, is the one treasure that doesn't come from the earth. It comes from the heart, and that more than any nugget or pay streak is the treasure Parker Schnabel is truly after.